In this podcast titled, I Am Not a Rapist, footballer David Goodwillie speaks out for the first time. David Goodwillie, a former footballer, shares his side of the story regarding a rape allegation made against him. Goodwillie recounts the events leading up to the accusation, the subsequent criminal charges, and the civil case that followed. He expresses his frustration with the media's portrayal of him and the impact it has had on his personal and professional life. Goodwillie begins by discussing the initial investigation and the DNA evidence found at the scene. He claims that his DNA was present, but there was no evidence linking his friend, Robert, to the incident. Goodwillie emphasizes that there was no physical violence involved and that the encounter was consensual. He expresses his disbelief that the woman involved, Denise, claims to have no memory of the events, as she was actively participating and seemed fully aware at the time. The footballer describes the emotional toll of being charged with rape and the impact it had on his family. He recalls the moment he learned of the charges and how it was publicly announced on the news. Goodwillie explains that he felt he had to inform his parents before they heard it from someone else. He describes the support he received from his coach, who encouraged him to stay strong and focus on his football career. Goodwillie discusses the backlash he faced from fans and the media. He describes the taunting he endured during matches and the constant scrutiny he faced. He acknowledges that being labeled as a rapist is the worst label one can have and expresses his desire to clear his name. He explains that the criminal charges were eventually dropped, but the civil case continued for several years. The footballer reflects on the impact of the civil case on his mental health and career. He admits that he struggled with homesickness and turned to alcohol as a coping mechanism. Goodwillie acknowledges that he made mistakes and wishes he had been more professional during that time. He discusses the financial consequences of the case, including selling his house to pay for legal fees. Goodwillie shares his frustration with the justice system, particularly the difference between criminal and civil courts. He believes that the civil case was driven by media attention and public pressure. He expresses his disappointment with the verdict and the lack of support he received throughout the process. Goodwillie emphasizes that he is not a sex offender and hopes to clear his name in a criminal court. The footballer discusses the ongoing impact of the case on his life and the challenges he faces in finding a new team. He acknowledges that he will always face backlash and scrutiny, regardless of which team he signs with. Goodwillie expresses his concern for his children and how they will be treated due to the allegations against him. He highlights the importance of mental health support and the positive impact it has had on him. In conclusion, Goodwillie expresses his desire to move forward and find something positive in his life. He hopes that people will listen to his side of the story with an open mind and understand that these things can happen to anyone. He appreciates the opportunity to speak out and hopes that his experience can serve as a lesson for others.